Hi, everybody. It's me. I'm MattHawes of Comics Unlimited in Evansville, Indiana, and one-time host of The Happy Show, the public access television show that was also shown on YouTube and which can still be seen on YouTube, such as here on my YouTube channel. I'm making this video today because I wanted to talk about a book I've written and put together, edited, all that fun stuff. It's about our gang. That's the Little Rascals. Most people know them as the Little Rascals. And if you're of a certain age group, you either know them from the classic original Our Gang series from the 30s, really began in the 20s all the way through the 40s. It lasted 22 years. And most people know the cast that had Alfalfa, Spanky, Buckwheat, and Darla. And they had many other members before and after, too. But a lot of people like who of a certain age, most of my age roughly, we learned about them. Some people older than me and some younger from reruns that were shown typically on Sundays, Saturdays, or afternoons and what have you, starting since the 1950s, running to this day, really. But I think for the most part, it was around the 90s where, as internet and everything became more prominent, where you don't see them as much on television, but they're still on there, I think, on different channels and such, especially those that dedicate themselves to older kind of programs and stuff like Me TV and that sort of thing. But and then there's another generation that's more familiar with the remake of the Little Rascals, which was in the 90s. It was a 1994 movie, which to me and a lot of purists of the Our Gang series, it wasn't the best remake, but it did bring in a generation. There's people that know of Our Gang and found out about the original cast and the original movie shorts because of that 90s movie. So while I may not think it's the greatest piece of work, it did help bring in a new generation, and it's appreciative for that. So I decided to make myself a book about the Little Rascals, but to combine it with my love of comic books, because that's my forte. I sell comic books and toys and stuff mostly based off comic books and such for a living. Done so for the last 30 something years, probably, really, if you add it all together. I have shopped nearly 30. First opened my shop nearly 30 years ago, and I still sell to this day, like at Cowboy Jim's Vendor Mall that's here at Evansville, Indiana. Give a plug real quick. 850 S Green River Road, Evansville, Indiana. Cowboy Jim's Vendor Mall. You can come and see me there. So I still sell to this day like that. Been an artist, and I've had some work published back in the day in comic, basically what we call comic fanzines these days, but it was nationally syndicated or published, distributed issues. Anyway, so like I said, I have an interest in that field besides just being a fan of comic books and such. So being a fan of Our Gang, the Little Rascals, and of comic books, I decided to go ahead and put together a book that concentrates on, or examines rather, the history and the connection between comic books and the Little Rascals, which at first glance people may not think there's a great connection, but honestly, almost from the very beginning, in some manner, comic books have been a part of the history of Our Gang, and which is kind of funny because the first official ongoing comic book series did not come to close to the end of the theatrical film series, but from its very beginnings, it's had ties, and it continues, even to this day. And in fact, more recently than I would have realized myself till I did research on this book. There were still books within the last few years comic books published about Our Gang. And so, anyway, I decided, like I said, to put this together, and this is the example. What happens, like, I'm going right now through Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, which, if you're familiar with that is a print-on-demand company, which means that, I don't actually have a stock of this waiting to be distributed. It's actually, you order it through Amazon and you get a copy and so forth. And anyway, so I've finished the book entirely now, but the thing is, I'm now in the process of getting it published, And with Amazon, as well as any publisher and printer, you have to have specifics on your formatting. Now, because this is a self-published thing, really, through Kindle, it's on me to format the book, and it's a little tricky sometimes. So I got what they call printer's proof, and Amazon puts this nonsensical, not for resale thing. I mean, first off, I can resell it if I want. I paid for it. I paid for a proof. I didn't get this for free either. But regardless of that, this is a proof to give me an idea. This is the book, and that's the cover, except for that stupid strip right there. That watermark won't be on the actual version that will be published soon, hopefully. And this is the back cover, and I did like a parody of those American Seed ads that were on comic books, really in the 70s and such, but I decided to have fun and put like our gang members on there and such. And it's 160 pages, it's pretty thick, and it's full color. Unfortunately, because of, I want it to be full color for you to get the most out of this, but it does make it a little bit more costly than normal. So this will retail on Amazon at $29.99, which is about the best I can get it down, because they have a base cost where on the print on demand, where they tell you have to set your price at least a certain minimum, because they're going to make their money no matter what if it gets ordered. So their minimum for a full color book of this thickness, it's kind of costly. I knew it'd probably be around $30, and that's where it looks like it's going to be at. And now there is an exception. I plan to make, if I sell this in person, if you're in the area of Evansville, Indiana, or what have you, and such, I get what they call author copies. I can get those at slightly better price that I order when I can resell them myself, and I can cut off at least $5 on that price. So I'll probably have it for $25 at my booth at the Cowboy Gyms, whenever I go to conventions and such. Otherwise, if you're going to order online, unfortunately, I'm kind of in a position where I can't really go any lower than that. But hopefully, people who are fans will find it worth the price. And I'll give you a glimpse. That's one reason why I'm making this video, is I want to give you a glimpse. This thing was so close to being ready for publication, and the reason why I'm a little bit fretting, like for instance here, the text is just a little too much into the back pages here. See, it's just a little too much there for me to be comfortable. It can be read. I mean, it can be read fairly easily, but I still think the perfectionist in me thinks that does need to be brought up a little bit more. It's like this close to being published ready, which means I have to go through 160 pages and reformat the book. You have to do it, or I can leave it as is. I think if Amazon didn't reject it because it needs that. See, here again. I'll show you on the information page for this. It's like I said, just a little too close to the inside spine. So yeah, I really do think that I need to take care of that. I was so close to wanting this, like, well, it's good enough. No, but like I said, I want it to be perfect for you guys. So, but this gives you an example, by the way. There's photographs. I decided to include some rare photographs. That is a colorized photograph, by the way. But I did some with our gang members. That's Dickie Moore, one of our gang members of the early 30s. And he's reading a comic strip, from the Sunday paper there. This covers the comic strips and comic books, because comic strips were what led to the comic books in the history. And when our gang series first began, comic books, as we know them, didn't really exist. They didn't exist till 1933, so it happened in the midst of that. But comic strips have been around since the turn of the 20th century. Technically way further than that. In fact, you get some history, not just of our gang's history, but I give you a little bit of history of comic books in general in this anyway. Oh, see, like this was taken from the Walt Kelly, there you go, Walt Kelly comic books from the 40s. There's some of those I did like some cleanup and stuff and put it together because I thought they'd make nice things between the chapters like that. There's a scene from one of the Our Gang shorts, and this is the colorized picture again, where you see Froggy there reading a comic book. Now that's from the early 1940s, so of course comic books, that's their heyday. And then they got Dynamo Dick is the name of the comic book. Not a real book. It was a fictional character that they create just for that. You see Hal Roach in the original Our Gang cast from the 1920s, the silent films, and their picture of Hal Roach. So I give a little bio on and a little introduction on things here. And you see that, there's the Yellow Kid, which was one of the first comic strips in the United States containing comic strip characters. And talking about Huckleberry Finn and all that, because they all kind of, now he was a comic strip character, but when you read a book, I kind of draw a line between some of these characters, which ultimately led to the creation of the Our Gang series, not directly, but in some ways. And there's Buster Brown, who also had a lot to do with Our Gang in some non-direct ways, like his own silent films. A lot of people will refer to him or to Mickey McGuire rather. I'm getting confused with one of Our Gang members. Mickey McGuire there, which is actually Mickey Rooney when he was just a kid, was in a series based off a comic book series, Toonerville Trolley, and that's Mickey there playing one of the characters, Mickey McGuire, and the series was named after that character. And both Buster Brown and Mickey McGuire, a lot of times you'll see them referred to as knockoffs as Our Gang, of Our Gang, because these particular series with these characters, film series, came out probably almost certainly as a result of the popularity of Our Gang. But these characters predate in the comic books, in the comic strips rather. They predate Our Gang. And in a sense, they're kind of, probably set the tone for, like child humor and comedies, juvenile comedies and stuff, that Our Gang picked up and ran with, whenever it started. So there's a lot of fascinating stuff about that sort of thing here. I go over that and then go over other, either possible influences or at least contemporary things that have to do with Our Gang. And then the different creators and people like H.M. Beanie Walker wrote the titles. His friendship of George Harriman, who was a creator of Crazy Cat, one of the seminal, important comic strips of all time. There's a bunch of just cool stuff in here. There's some artwork by Gus Means, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, the director who directed not only Buster Brown silent comedies, but he directed some talkies of the Our Gang in the 30s. Got some more illustrations there. So this is I hope people will find this fun. It's got all sorts of color photos and such, and even pictures I take from the Recolor book, which was a coloring book. They're not technically comic books, but the art was similar enough. I thought I'd share that too. And I talk a bit about the animation, because the animated series, like for instance, there's an 80s animated series that led to a French comic book series based off of that. I think these are all adapting the cartoons into comic form. I don't think they're original stories, but I don't know because I don't own them and don't speak French. And then I talk about, different other animation stuff. Give some galleries. Talk about connections between different Our Gang members and how they either started in some stuff about comic strips and comic books, or they were later on featured. Like that's Tommy Bond. That's Butch. He's Jimmy Olsen. He was the first live action Jimmy Olsen on film. And that was back in the movie serial in the 1940s and early, like 1948, 1950. I think there was a Superman movie serial and then the Batman versus Superman, which was a sequel. And of course, later on, Jackie Cooper, another famous Our Gang member right there, played Perry White in the Superman the movie. And so it talks about these different connections there, such as that. Robert Blake as Little Beaver. Then Also, as a special bonus to this book, there's about a 30-page or close to 30-page adaptation, or not really adaptation. It's a reprint in a sense, but it's been, I've translated it, colored it, and everything from a book called Otico Tico, which is a children's magazine that was published from the early 1900s through the 1960s in Brazil. Had a long life of comics, doing comic strips and children's magazine articles and stuff like that. Anyway, Otico Tico had a serial of its own, the serial adventure, which one page for 30 issues in a row that focused on our gang members. This was 1933 and 1934, where the cast members of our gang come to the United States. They go to Brazil, rather. The other way around. They go to Brazil and are introduced to Brazil by, let's see if I can remember his name, Chiquinho. Chiquinho, if I pronounce that right. I spell it right because I make sure of that. But Chiquinho, which oddly enough, we're having Buster Brown connections. He's a knockoff of Buster Brown from Brazil. So you got this Brazilian character named Chiquinho with his dog, who's also based off of Buster Brown's dog. They're treated as the ambassadors for Brazil, who are showing the Americans from our gang series right there. So they're showing them the Brazil, like it's like a little travelogue of sorts. And that's supposed to be Dickie Moore there, Stymie. And then there's little Spanky when he's still a baby, basically. At least a little toddler. And then you got Pete the pup. And those are the members of the gang that go to Brazil. And we get to see them travel around. So I took the original black and white cartoons. I had to touch them up a bit because of quality. Be honest with you, the quality of the art, or the printing rather, was a bit rougher because I was working off PDF files that I got off of a site. I was able to find on a Brazilian site all these issues. That's why I was able to do the full serial. And they're in the public domain now, so except for this is a newly created work of mine. This one's copyright me because I did the coloring and the translation and stuff. So this version is exclusive to this book here. And anyway, so I got, like I said, that's all in there, the whole entire bit about that. Then I show more examples in a gallery of comic strips and comic art. No, it's comic strips, strictly speaking. Some of it is just related. And then, even though these weren't comic strips, I did include posters with artwork in there. Because a lot of times, the art is similar to comic book and comic strip art. And I just thought that might be cool to include. So anyway, sorry to be a little so long-winded. This thing, like the proof, shows me that I might want to go ahead and tinker with it a bit before officially being published. So this is July 12th or something like that. Yeah, I think it's July 12th that I'm recording this video. 2023, if we want to be accurate for posterity. So I just got this. It could have been published tonight, but if Amazon allowed me to do so. But I just don't think it's really ready. I think I do have to. It's almost ready. But I do have to just kind of scoot that in a little bit on those pages where the text is not so close to the spine. And so I think I got about one more week before I could get this published. So if you're watching this video, it's either going to already be published if you watch it beyond this week, or it's going to be very close to being published. And hopefully it'll be easy enough to find on Amazon too, but I have links on my websites, my Facebook page, and everything else. Have I held this up enough? So anyway, I hope you give that a look and we'll enjoy it, because I put months into this book, a lot more time than I thought I was going to, be honest with you. But I kept falling down a rabbit hole of sorts as I found out more information online. I came across other tidbits or other cool things I just wanted to include. So I think the hardcore fans should hopefully definitely enjoy it, and comic book fans and our gang fans, I hope, will enjoy it. And even there, I think even for the casual fan, hopefully there's enough entertainment in there for you. And I'll probably make an update vlog whenever I do have this all ready to go. But I think that's it for now. And I'll go ahead and let you go. And until next time, yay! I'll see you. If you're in Evansville, come to the Cowboy Jams. Yay!